Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. My name is Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, we're talking about a game series that is near and dear to both of our hearts, Half-Life.
Yeah, so we're actually talking about the history of two different things. And this is our first time doing this, so hopefully it goes well. We're going to talk about... To me, you can't do one without doing the other. So we're definitely talking about the history of Half-Life. And subsequently, we're also going to talk about the history of Valve, the legendary gaming company that made Half-Life and Steam and all that jazz. So
yeah, they are very intertwined, their histories.
Yes. And so I actually usually, like, for full disclosure, for research for these episodes, we go on Wikipedia to start, and then we click on all of the little like links and stuff under the references section, the thing that no one ever looks at. That's what I do, at least. And I changed it up, and I used Wikipedia, but also two videos on YouTube that were really informative, and I wanted to share those with you. So the first is called The History of Valve. It's by Gamerang. Gamerang or Gamerang? I don't know. It sounds
Gamerang. Because it's like a batarang or a boomerang. It's got to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's Gamerang. So the other one is, not surprisingly, called History of Half-Life, parentheses 1998 to 2020. And that one's by Nick930. And Nick930 does a bunch of cool history videos. So
sounds like somebody to check out.
Yeah, everyone should check it out. I think it's
if
really
you're
cool.
Into video game history.
He's there. He goes into like deep dives too. So I actually only, truth be told, used maybe the first 10 minutes of each of those videos because they start talking about later Half-Life stuff, and we're not there yet, but we will get there. So if you find anything in this episode today interesting, you should definitely watch those videos. And they did a great job, and they're really good and really informative. And there's only one thing in this entire piece that is puzzling me, and I will describe what it is when we get to it. But other than that, the story begins with Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington. They both worked for Microsoft in 1996. Newell actually had 13 years with the company, and he helped develop Windows. So
dang, that's a long time.
Yeah, he was in the door early. And a little background on Microsoft and people that helped develop Windows in the late 80s, early 90s, they were flushed with cash because of the success of Windows. So
they were really rolling it in at that point in time. I mean, they still are, but they especially were per capita. The amount of money going into Microsoft per person that worked there was just absolutely insane in the 80s. In
yes,
like the late 80s, early 90s.
And I believe, too, at that time, you got stock options as an employee, and you made a ton of money. I live in the Seattle area, full disclosure. A lot of my friends' parents retired at 40. Well, not a lot, but like I can name at least two. So that's something that happened because they both worked for Microsoft. I think one of them like helped invent Excel, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Yeah,
well, they deserve to retire at 40.
Yeah, they retire at 40 and you're just done because you have so much money. So Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington were millionaires, and they wanted to spend their newfound wealth on a new project and leave Microsoft. And they both enjoyed games. And they actually had a fortunate meeting through a mutual friend with John Carmack, who is
our boy John Carmack.
Our hero, the founder of id Software. And they essentially, this mutual friend, they don't know who it is, they just say mutual friend, essentially set the stage for one of the biggest and most influential companies of all time, because Carmack convinced Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington, excuse me. How do I forget his name? His name is my name. I should remember that. Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington to license id's Quake engine and make a game. And that's essentially how this whole thing got started. And I didn't know this. This is actually a really cool fact that's on the History of Valve video, is they had some other names than Valve in the beginning. So names they like brainstormed to name their company: Fruit Fly Ensemble. Hollowbox.
Hollowbox is good.
Rhino Scar.
No, that's not good.
I think Hollowbox is my favorite. I do like Fruit Fly Ensemble because it makes me think of like a band that's made of fruit flies.
Yeah, Fruit Fly Ensemble sounds like a band name.
Or like a symphony made of fruit flies.
Yeah.
Adorable logo alert. But eventually, as we all know now, because it's 2020 and this happened in 1996, and that's how history works, they named the company Valve. So
that's a good name too.
It is a really good name.
I think I would have voted for Hollowbox.
Valve
Throw up to me.
Hollowbox sounds like a game console to me.
Yeah.
The Hollowbox. It sounds like a Well, I think I've been watching just too much Star Trek. I'm just thinking like it's a VR thing for sure. So
Yeah.
Valve, actually, fun fact, was signed into existence the day that Gabe Newell got married. So his anniversary with his wife is his anniversary of his company.
Congratulations, Gabe.
Congratulations, Gabe Newell. From the start, they wanted to develop games differently than their peers. And Valve's goal was to essentially produce big budget games right away. So a typical company, let's say Bungie started with one person. Okay. And like instead, because they have all this money from Microsoft, Newell and Harrington were like, no, we're going to do a big budget game as our first game. And they had the money to hire those people and they got started. So they actually took a different route though. Instead of hiring your professional programmers and game designers, they focused on modders to hire because they felt that modders were more talented than other companies gave them credit for. And they wanted to use that with their new game. And it was easy for them to do too, because like I said, they have all this money and they can do that. So Newell and Harrington actually did not create Half-Life's story. If we're going to get into the development side of it, they actually hired a writer named Mark Laidlaw, and they created the narrative and world of Half-Life. Now, I've actually read a couple interviews with Laidlaw. Like, there's a couple, just like people interviewing him around the time that Half-Life came out. And he is super humble. Like, he doesn't give himself credit. He just says that actually he took a lot of the ideas from the designers and fit the story around that. And he actually describes it in the article I read as like, yeah, we kind of tricked you into thinking there was a deep world, but they're really like, we just kind of like threw the thing out there. And like, he actually says that he doesn't think Half-Life really had a story until like Half-Life 2. That's when they really committed to it.
I tend to agree with that. Like, people talk about how the first Half-Life had such a great story, and I played it a little bit after it was like really a thing, and I was like, I don't know. It seems like it's pretty thin here. I mean, there's something, but there's not a whole lot to go off of, you know?
I think what Half-Life does so well, and I mentioned this later on, and we're going off of my notes, but that's what we do on this podcast. We love tangents, is that they build an environment better than anyone around. Like,
it's pretty good, yeah.
Feel like you're in Black Mesa, like this secret government facility. And you talk to all the characters, and that's really what the game is known for being groundbreaking for. But I did really like the story, you know, that Mark Laidlaw let out there. I think it's really cool, and I think it's the beginning for sure. And he kept writing. Yes. He wrote Half-Life 2, and he wrote on the other episodes of Half-Life 2, and we'll get more into that later when we do those on different episodes. But the big thing for him is he was inspired by Stephen King's The Mist and the 1960s TV show The Outer Limits. And I feel like Outer Limits I can get from that because The Outer Limits is like about aliens, you know?
The Outer Limits.
But The Mist I don't really know much about. My guess is it's something about like secret government stuff because Black Mesa is the secret government base that you are in Half-Life, and there's an alien invasion, and that's pretty much the story that's there. You got to stop that. They really did focus on building that environment in Half-Life and telling that story through the levels. So in previous games of this era, there was a lot of cutscenes going on. They either had cutscenes to tell the story or they straight up had no story at all. And actually, in a lot of the video, they reference Doom with that, the first Doom. Because the first Doom is like
no story.
Yeah, what's that? Say that again?
It's like very little story, that first Doom. Like it's just like text on a screen between episodes.
Yeah, you're just moving through the complex and killing demons. And that's the way it should be, if you ask me. But Valve wanted the player to feel a part of the world of Half-Life, and they designed players to interact with the characters while also having scripted events take place in the world. So, for example, in the beginning of this alien invasion in Half-Life, you actually see like you're behind glass and there's a booth with a guard in it and the vent breaks, and it's kind of like with a horror movie where you can see what's going to happen to the guard, but you can't do anything about it. And they like build that tension that way. And then, of course, the guard gets killed and pulled through the vent because that's just classic. But also, I mean, for me, playing this game, that's kind of what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. I've been playing Half-Life, everybody. I was trying to prep for it, get everything going. Okay. There's a moment in one of the levels where you're outside of the complex and you're trying to go through, and there's a guard that's like bleeding on the desert, and you're like, oh, there's a sniper here. That's what they're trying to tell me. And it's just like little things like that I know now because I've been playing video games for so long. But that's what Half-Life did first.
Yeah.
No one really did that before they did. So anytime you're like playing a game and you're like, see something happen in the world, and you're like, oh, I need to go that way, you can pretty much thank Half-Life for that.
Yep.
And giving you those hints.
Yeah, there are no cutscenes in any of the Half-Life games. Everything is done from Gordon's perspective.
Yep, no cutscenes. Everything's done from his perspective. There's a lot of like scenes, like, I mean, even just the opening train ride of the whole thing is like really, really cool. It's just really good at bringing you into the world. And even the old game like is good at bringing you into the world. So during the development of Half-Life, though, Valve also needed to change a lot of the original Quake engine code. In fact, Gabe Newell actually said that they pretty much changed so much of the code that it wasn't even the Quake engine anymore. They actually had to change it too because they wanted to add these new features in. Because Valve, when they were in the development of this game, and especially when they showed it at the first E3 in 1997, not the first E3, but the first E3 they attended in 1997, a big part of the game was this like technological breakthroughs with advanced artificial intelligence for the NPCs and to do all these events. And then also to have these like really good, but for the time, really good looking graphics. I mean, the faces alone, even in that old game, are like, that's better than most of the things around at that time. So they had to change the code though. I think they said something about like 70% was like the conservative guess, but they think it's more of the original Quake code. And to the point where they actually just called it a new engine that Valve created for Half-Life, and it was called Gold Source, GOLDSRC. And you'll notice the source because that's what becomes their source engine in the next iteration of Half-Life. But that's the engine they used. And it's also important to note that they could just do this. You know, they could just kind of mess with stuff and make these decisions last minute and move everything around because they actually like didn't have to check in with anybody. You know, like all of these decisions they make are Mike Harrington and Gabe Newell's decisions. They don't have a board to look up to or investors to check in with. So they could do decisions like this. They could be like, we're just going to change the whole engine code. Even that we bought this code, we're not really going to use it. We're going to change it for what we need. And we're going to take all the time we need because we don't care. You know, that's essentially...
Yeah, we have infinity dollars to make a video game.
Exactly. And this comes into play a lot later too. So, while they had the freedom to do this, there was a downside. And the downside of being a brand new studio that is funded by two people that no one really knows in the industry is they had a lot of trouble trying to find a publisher for Half-Life. So they ended up finding someone. They found Sierra Online. And they found Sierra Online for two reasons. The first was Sierra Online was already looking for a first-person action game, and it was kind of a match made in heaven. And also, Sierra Online only signed them for one game, because if it was a bust, they could just walk away and dissolve the relationship, and it's not a big deal. The other, I can't confirm this reason. This is like hearsay. I couldn't really find anything to like back this up. Apparently Sierra Online actually had an opportunity to publish Doom and they turned them down.
They didn't want to goof again. And they didn't, man. Imagine like looking back, being the company that published Half-Life. That's basically as good as being the company that published Doom at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a big home run for them for sure. So in the end, they didn't get id Software, but they ended up getting Valve. And I mean, also, I don't even know if Sierra Online is still a company anymore.
They're
probably
not.
Bought out.
No, they're gone.
But the public's first look at Half-Life was at E3 in 1997, as I mentioned before, and the game was the most talked about game at the convention. The hype train left the station. And you can actually look at the build of this, by the way. I watched a video of the build of the E3 1997, and it doesn't really look that great. So even though it was like the hype train, like it wasn't what the game became, you know. A lot of the monsters look different and the environments look different, but Valve told the public here that Half-Life would release in November of 1997, and they kept their word and everything was great.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. They delayed it. They delayed it so much. I actually delayed the game 4 times. It was moved to spring of 1998, then summer of 98, then fall of 98, and finally they landed on Thanksgiving of 1998.
A full year later, man. If there's anything that I know about developing video games, it's that everything takes longer than you think it's going to take.
Exactly. There are actually 2 big reasons for the delay of Half-Life in 1997. The first was that the game just wasn't finished by the time the deadline popped up. But for example, like in the initial build, they didn't really like the way the AI worked compared to like what they wanted it to be. But the second reason, and this is the more important reason, the development team just didn't think the game was fun.
Hey, that's a pretty good reason to not put your game out.
They really felt like this build like wasn't their best effort in any way, shape, or form. And one video I watched, they were just like straight up, they're like, the game just isn't fun. Like we just didn't really enjoy playing it, and we're not going to release something they didn't enjoy playing. So Valve did what any other normal video game company would do and completely scrapped the entire first build of Half-Life.
Wow.
Again, if you watch these videos, you can see footage of what it looked like before, and you will be glad that they scrapped this.
Dang. Well, hey, that's the benefits of having infinity dollars to make your game. You can just throw the whole thing away and start over if you need to.
Exactly. And that's another big benefit of it being the 2 of them just self-funding this entire project. Newell actually had a really funny quote about this, and this is just straight from the video I watched with him, like doing an interview in the 90s. It says, quote, "If you ask a typical Valve fan, Valve's products are always late. Of the resource quality schedule stool, we're always willing to relax schedule first to make a higher quality at the expense of everything else. Our view is that if a product is late for a little while, that's fine, but what is it? Our view is that a product is late for a little while, but a product will suck forever." So
I think Miyamoto has something about that too. Like a delayed game is eventually good. A rushed game is bad forever.
Yeah. I think they have very similar outlooks on life. This is from his like interview, so maybe he stole from Miyamoto. Because this was probably like after Half-Life, right? When did Miyamoto say that? Oh,
I don't know. I think he was saying it. I want to say he said it about Ocarina of Time, but I don't know.
We're going to get into a serious Valve versus. We just started a Valve versus Nintendo Flame War. Did you hear that? Oh no. Just kidding. Okay, so to fix Half-Life, Valve actually did something really cool. This is something that I was actually pretty impressed with when I read what they did here as to make the game. They took people from each department and they built a super level. So essentially, they took everything that was cool from the original build and they put it into one giant playable area and kept all those cool mechanics, and they scrapped everything else. And this kind of gave them the start of what to see of like, what if a level is fun? You know, this is their basic benchmarks. Is this fun? Is this something that we can like kind of twist and change and make better essentially throughout the thing? And that's how they kind of started this process of rebuilding the game. They also created a team of designers that would meet 4 times a week called a cabal. We found ourselves at war with the Cabal is what I wrote, everybody. It's a Destiny joke. That's only for like 4 of us, but you know what? It feels great. They would actually meet up and bounce new game ideas off of each other, and this is pretty much what shaped Half-Life into the game we now know, is this group of people meeting 4 times a week for 6 hours at a time is what they wrote in the article, which is a lot.
That's 24 hours a week. That's more than half your week.
Yep, just to like get ideas for the game and make things. And actually, this is pretty much something that Valve still does with their games.
They still have a cabal?
They still have a cabal, and I've heard also that they still build like these cool super levels with all the cool game mechanics and stuff. Huh. Also, this is the part of the history that I have to say I am unsure of something, and that is, in a couple things I read, it said the Cabal started before they scrapped this build. And then in one of the videos I watched, it says that the Cabal started after they scrapped the 1997 build. That's a really minute detail, I know, but I'm completely unsure. And I want to let everyone know not to quote me on this at their next hip party they go to, where you talk about Half-Life. Don't bring this conversation piece up.
They say, are you sure that's true? I heard it was before they scrapped the build. Oh, well, Mike on Codex History Podcast said,
yeah,
don't do
go
that.
around. Don't go around
throw
saying
my
I
gun
know
to the
things. I don't know things. So what ended up happening with that cabal is they actually produced a 200-page design document that detailed every aspect of the game almost. And they also produced a 30-page document for the narrative, and that's pretty much what Mark Laidlaw took and like turned into a script, you know? And he even says like he this is one of the things he said his contribution was to, quote, add old storytelling tricks to the team's designs. He actually says, quote here, I was in awe of the team. It felt to me like I was just borrowing from old standards while they were the ones doing something truly new rather than dictate narrative elements. Oh, wait, no, sorry. And then he goes on to say, from some kind of ivory tower of authorial inspiration. So he pretty much doesn't give himself credit. He, even though I think he did a lot more than he says, he just seems like a pretty humble dude. He actually... I was reading enough about him because I found like I am like really like video game writing and I think it's really cool. So I read stuff about it. And he wrote novels for a while before this happened. And he was just working as like a legal secretary while writing novels and short stories. And then he started writing for Wired Magazine's online video game reviews. Like he was one of their reviewers. And for a while was their like go-to review guy. And that's how he ended up meeting Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington.
Oh,
and
nice.
He just really wanted to be a part of Half-Life, and they brought him in for it.
That's cool.
And that's just how he became this crazy awesome video game writer that worked there until 2016. So I think he had over 20 years there with Valve.
It's a long time.
Yeah, but it's really cool. He also says he retired because he just felt like he was the old guy in the office. And I'm like, no, that shouldn't be why you retire.
He's did you watch Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet?
No.
Oh, there's a character on that show who is the old guy. He's the writer, and he's like 70-year-old science fiction writer, and everybody else is like kids basically in this office. And yeah, so that's who Mark Laidlaw is, I guess.
We're gonna go on a big tangent here. You ready? So I lived in LA for 2.5 years, and I did stand-up comedy, and there was a lot of people I knew that were writers on TV shows, and they described like your favorite sitcoms are all written by like 60 to 70-year-old men who've been writing forever, and they just brag about what they write on and fight all the time. That's how my friend described it to me, and I was like really excited about it. I think that's really funny. So I think the old man writer is not only in video games but also in television and everything. But yeah, I actually really... I think Mark Laidlaw needs to give himself some more credit. Okay, everyone.
I agree.
If that's something you take from this podcast, I mean, he's very polite to the team in the designs. He also actually mentions in, like, as an example of this, he said that he didn't actually write the opening sequence with the tram ride. He only thought of that after they designed a train system. So that's kind of what he means by saying like, oh, like, I didn't really know what to write, and then they designed this train system, and I just fit it with that. Like, he kind of used which I think is how you're supposed to do it. Use the game elements for the inspiration for the story to move the story. So I think
you
in a
could
way,
do it either way, I suppose.
Yeah, he did it. I think it's great. Mark Laidlaw, you're great. Never change. Okay.
You're great.
You're great. E3, 1998, actually showed more people jumping onto that hype train again. Okay. They're like, oh no, look at this. It's a redone version of Half-Life. This is crazy. I love it. And then disaster. You ready for disaster?
Oh no.
Due to a technical error, Valve lost the final build of Half-Life.
Holy moly.
Everything was gone. So with 2 months from release in Thanksgiving 1998, so we're looking like September, they had to gather pieces of code from everyone in the office and put it together to rebuild the final build.
Dang.
Piece by piece. Because they just lost the final build. It was some sort of weird, like, I'm guessing some weird server problem or something.
Yeah,
they just
maybe.
lost everything.
That happened to Toy Story 2. Did you ever hear that story?
No.
The movie Toy Story 2, they're very close to finishing it, and some error happened. They lost the whole movie, like all of the project files for it. And the only way they were able to get it back was there was a woman who was on maternity leave, I think, and she had been working from home. And so she had all of the project files on her computer at home. And so they like had to get them off of her work computer at home, which was pretty crazy because otherwise the movie would have just been gone.
Oh, man, we never would have had Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
I love me some Toy Story. I even love Toy Story 4. Some people hated Toy Story 4.
What? I love Toy Story 4.
I think those people are wrong. Yeah, you know what? People like to hate things, but it's not
Yeah.
cool here. Okay?
I agree.
So they had to build the Half-Life final build piece by piece, but they also had another thing that kind of started this hype train. You ready for the hype train? Keeps going.
Oh, yeah.
They actually was a demo that was meant for investors that was leaked online, and people went bananas. So they could actually had like an unsanctioned playable demo before the game was released. Now, is this really leaked, or is this like when iPhones show up in bars? You know what I mean? That's what I want to know. But there actually were two legitimate demos for Half-Life I want to talk about real quick. There was the first demo, Half-Life Day 1, and that contained the first fifth of the game and was distributed with certain graphics cards right at launch of Half-Life. So you could kind of get a teaser of it before you bought the game. The second demo, Half-Life Uplink, was actually released February 12th, 1999. So this is like 4 months after the original release of the game. And there was actually new original content in that demo. And this is the best thing that I never knew that I had to text Tyler about today because I was so excited. There is a short film based on Half-Life called Half-Life Uplink. It was developed by a marketing agency called Cruise Control. It's British. It was released on February 11th, 1999. It's 5 minutes long, and I suggest everyone should watch it.
It's fantastic.
The film's protagonist is a journalist who infiltrates the Black Mesa research facility after the events of Half-Life. And the movie is only like 5 minutes long. It's on YouTube right now. You can go Google it. Go Google Half-Life Uplink movie, and you should just go watch it. It's super low budget, and it was filmed on Sony Handycams because it's like found footage. And it's really cool, actually. They use a decommissioned Cold War bunker in England to shoot the movie, though. So the exterior shots are definitely on grass, not desert. So you're kind of like, it's a little fishy here, but 10 out of 10. I would totally recommend it. They actually use the sound from the game, which I actually really liked. I think it kind of worked because it sounds so off and weird. And they actually time it really well, too. And at the end, there's a sick Terminator reference. So
it's true.
Everyone should watch the movie Half-Life Uplink. I actually saw a movie about the movie too, so there's like some other stuff you could look up online. I suggest you watch the short film first, and then there's a couple people that do like 10-minute breakdowns of the video, and it's pretty fun.
Would you say it's maybe the best video game movie of all time?
It actually might be. Sorry, Wreck-It Ralph 2, although I don't really consider that a video game movie. It's about an imaginary video game.
It has video game stuff in it, but I wouldn't say it's not a movie about like a video game. You know what I mean? Like, it's not Super Mario Brothers. It's not Doom.
Yeah, it's not Doom, but it's still fun. I like it.
But they are both great movies.
But it doesn't qualify.
But it's not quite the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't qualify. Half-Life was released on November 19th, 1998, and spoilers, it was a hit. Everybody
loved it.
So while
Jinx.
the U.S. sales were below 100,000 copies by November 30th, 1998, by 1999, it sold 212,000 copies, and it earned $8.6 million in revenue in the United States by the end of 1998. And Newell actually has a quote saying they only expected to sell 180,000 units, so they definitely passed that point.
Yeah.
Think about it now, too. Like, what's that? Like 22 years later, they have for sure made their money back on Half-Life. So on top of the numerous awards Half-Life received, Half-Life also saw a huge amount of mods from independent game developers. And this was mostly because, like their friends at id Software, Valve wanted people to mod their game. They encouraged it. They released a software development kit, which enabled developers to modify the game and create mods using the Gold Source engine. They also have a tool called WorldCraft, and that was the level design tool they used for the game's development. And it was included when you bought Half-Life. So you could
That's very cool.
Mess with WorldCraft. There was also a printed material, apparently, when you bought the original game that said that Valve was going to eventually sell WorldCraft as like a retail product, but that never actually came to happen, but it doesn't really matter because
I mean, they gave it away for free, so
yeah, they gave it away for free, so you could just use it from there. You know, you got that Half-Life disc laying around. Just go ahead and boot up Worldcraft.
I do have a Half-Life disc laying around.
Ooh, you could do it. But both tools were actually significantly updated with the release of the 1.1.0.0 patch. And this was actually what was kind of a breakthrough. So this had tools that were like texture editors, model editors, level editors, and the multiple engine editor called Quark, if you wanted to add another game engine into your game. And they were either created or updated to work with Half-Life. And this is actually a big point about it because the modding community for Half-Life is so huge, and it's so huge that we're going to talk about it in our next episode. We're going to go over the mods that put Valve on the map, the ones that they commercially took over. Looking at you, Counter-Strike, wink, wink. And we're also going to talk about some of the expansions to Half-Life, Half-Life Blue Shift, Opposing Force, Half-Life Decay. And then we're also going to talk about those weird mods that people made that never really got super popular that I think are really cool. And some of them I think you can play, which is what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to try to play some of these weird mods, like the USS Darkstar is one of them.
Ooh, that
which is like
fun.
Which is like Half-Life in space. Someone made that, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, so we're going to kind of go into that more next week, but we still have more Half-Life to talk about this episode. We're not over. We're not done yet. Okay. We need to actually talk about what Half-Life is. We haven't done that.
Oh yeah. Wow. Half an hour in and we don't even know what is Half-Life, Mike.
Yeah, so Half-Life is a first-person shooter video game where you play as Gordon Freeman, who is a nuclear physicist whose sole job is to wear a hazard suit and push carts into big, scary machines. I edited that part. I think that's what his job is. They don't really say.
I think so.
You just know that because at the beginning of the game, you push a cart into a big, scary machine, and then a disaster happens inside the secret government facility, Black Mesa, where you work, and then you're invaded by an interdimensional space alien species called the Zen. And then you have to stop it. It's Gordon Freeman. That's pretty much the game's story. And I mean, I think this game's really cool because there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. But I'm going to talk about the environment first. Okay, because you actually go through the Black Mesa facility, and it has a lot of diverse sections to it. Like, you start out in kind of the labs, and then you end up going into like the waste management area of Black Mesa. There's a lot of radioactive goo you got to watch out for. There's a lot of water you got to swim in. A lot of cool physics puzzles you got to solve. Very light physics compared to Half-Life 2. A lot of just moving boxes to make stairs. But that's still fun, I think. Also breaking boxes to find hidden items. And also, you go eventually outside the facility, and you even go to a different dimension. Spoilers on a game that came out 22 years ago. But it's still fun.
Yeah. One of the coolest things I think about the levels in Half-Life, and I don't think Half-Life was the first game to do this, but in lots of first-person shooters, before Half-Life, you would you would start a level, you would do all the things, you'd get to the end of the level, you'd hit a button or something, and the level would end, and then you'd start in the next level. And there was like a very clean break between levels. Doom is like that, Quake is like that. I think Duke Nukem is kind of like that. But in Half-Life, when you got to the end of a level, it was usually just like a hallway that you would go down, and you would just see a loading screen, and the game would pause while it did its loading thing, and then you would just be dropped back in the same spot that you were before, but now you're in another level. Like they're all sort of seamlessly together, even though they're still loading screens. They're all connected, which is very cool. It makes you feel like the whole world is connected and you're not just in the labs and then in the waste management and then outside the facility. It's like there's a pathway through the whole place. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, there's a pathway through the whole place. And there's also like connecting it together are a lot of actual NPC interactions where you just have to walk up to someone and they tell you something and they give you a hint. So I mean, I know at one point you have to get access to the Lambda labs and you have to go through and you kind of have scientists and security guards you run into that kind of give you advice on what's happening ahead of you. And like at one point you have to fight some underwater scary monsters and they warn you about that and it's really fun. But it's just the environment. It's kind of what you want a secret government lab to be. They have weird experiments you can mess with too later on. And then you also learn that they know about these aliens. It's not like a secret because they've been experimenting on them. And so you go through their like experimentation lab where you can like learn about teleporting, and then you can learn about like ways weapons they've designed to destroy the aliens. So you get the glue-on gun, which is pretty cool. But then also the aliens have a lot of really cool weapons too. Like the aliens have the Hornet gun, which breaks the game. Like, do you remember the Hornet gun?
I don't remember the Hornet gun off the top of my head.
So when you fight the alien grunts, the big, muscular, scary enemies that it turns out are manufactured in Zen. Spoilers, everybody. They have a gun on their arm that shoots like hornets. They like buzz and then hit you and they hurt you. And you get one of those guns. And the way it works is if you hit primary click, left click, it shoots and they like home in on a target. Or if you hit right click, they shoot really fast and go straight ahead. Well, if you home in on a target, you can just shoot people around corners. Like you don't even, if you go into a room, like go up to a room, you just shoot like in the top right corner of the hallway and it'll like home into the bad guys in the room and they won't even know you're there. It's like, cause it's an older game, you know? So I got stuck at a couple points in Half-Life just being like, I don't know what to do next. And I don't want to put too much thought into this. I'm on a clock, you know, I'm writing this history. And there's a lot of solutions that are like, before you enter this room, just shoot the top right corner of the hallway and all the enemies will die from the Hornet gun. So that weapon's really cool. The Magnum is really cool because it one hits the Marines. And like there's a crossbow that's like a sniping crossbow that's really cool too. And of course, there is your trusty crowbar, which is something that is just like...
It's the first item you get, right? They hand you the crowbar first thing.
Hand you the crowbar, you break boxes with it, you can beat head crabs with it. It's there for you. It's your one true friend. It's always there with you. Even when you lose all your weapons in the middle of the game, spoilers, the crowbar is still there. You find it. I'm gonna talk about the plot. I wasn't going to do it, but I feel like this is a 20-year-old game, right? It's okay.
I think it's okay, yeah.
Okay, I'll put spoilers in the description, so people hopefully read the description before they listen if they want to play this really badly. I also kind of knew the story before I played it, and I still played it, and I still had a good time. So I don't think that really matters that much.
The story's not that important to, like, if you're planning on playing Half-Life 2 and the episodes where the story is actually really good, the story of the first game is really not that important.
Yeah, the only thing that is taken from the first game is like a relationship with a couple characters in 2, and that's it. And why you appear, and that's it.
It's really more of a like an Easter egg, the fact that Dr. Kleiner and Barney are in Half-Life 2. I mean, they're big characters in that game, but like they're not even characters. They don't even have names in the first Half-Life, you know.
Until you play Blue Shift.
Until you play Blue Shift, then you get to play as Barney. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. But I will also say other things I especially like in the game. I mean, you got head crabs. That's like the synonymous like video game enemy that everyone knows. You know, the barnacles that come down from the ceiling. That's all. When that first happened to me, I like freaked out and screamed because I didn't know what was going on. And I should say I freaked out and screamed in Half-Life 2 because I definitely played Half-Life 2 before I played Half-Life 1, which is not a problem for anybody.
No, not a problem at all.
The levels that stood out to me, like encounters, are the tentacle monsters are the scariest. Like in the rocket silo, where you gotta like sneak around it. That like builds so much tension. And also the first time you have to fight the ichthyosaurus underwater, like the scary dinosaur swimmy monster thingies.
Yeah, those guys are scary too.
Those are super scary. But the game is just really great. You know, like it's hard to describe. The boss battle at the end, here comes another spoiler. The alien looks like a giant baby. And the reason the alien looks like a giant baby, it was intentional. Gabe Newell was going to have a kid and was really scared about having a kid, so he decided to put it in his video game.
Okay.
It's a cool fact. Fun factoids, I guess.
Fun fact, He was scared of this baby.
I mean, that's kind of how you describe it. I mean, I don't know if he was scared of his baby, but I think he was scared of fatherhood, so it's kind of like a symbolism
Scared of babies
thing.
in general.
Yeah, babies are kind of scary, though. You know, what do you do? You know?
They don't do anything, and you have to. They just need to be constantly kept alive. That's
right. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
If you have a baby, email us. Tell us about it. codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. I'm trying to think of other things I want to talk about. Oh, I never brought security guards with me. That's something that I didn't even really know you could do in the game until I was about halfway through. If you hit E on a security guard, they will follow you most of the time. And that's how you get to a lot of secret areas, which is cool.
Wow. I was years old when I learned that.
Yeah, if you keep them alive, they'll go open security doors that are like full of weapons and ammo.
Oh,
and
wow. Did not know that.
Yeah, I learned that about halfway through. And so I pretty much, if I met a security guard, I would remember that he was there. And then I would leave him because they're super squishy. Okay. And I would clear all the rooms and then I'd have him run with me and hopefully he'd find like a security door. And usually he would find a security door, or he'd actually just open the path to the next area. In which case I was like, well, what was I supposed to do if he died, you know? But that's a cool part of it. I think the Zen levels, this is my only complaint about Half-Life. You ready? And I don't think it's a very hot take at all. Okay. I think platforming in this game is a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
And
the
there's
Zen
a
parts
lot.
are tough.
And there's a lot of platforming. There's a lot of like, you need to save before every jump because you're going to die otherwise. And
I agree with you on that. I think that is not a hot take. Other people would agree with you.
Yeah. The other plot point that I wanted to talk about that I think was kind of big for the time, that was not a surprise now, that I think we need to respect more, is the Marine twist of it. Because like the Marines, they come to the Black Mesa and they definitely make it look like they're going to help you, and then they just start killing everyone because they want to cover it up. So I think that's a really cool twist that at the time wasn't really happening in a lot of video games. Now, if you saw that in a movie, you'd be like, they're going to betray us, you know? But in that time, it was really cool, and I think it's something that people should respect. Also, the Marines are like really challenging enemies, you know?
They have really good AI.
They are really good AI. They would like run to you and like push the fight if you're running away. The one thing I found out in this game too is if you want to win and you hear two enemies fighting, just sit there for like 3 minutes and let them fight it out, because they will kill each other, and then you can just walk in and clean it all up. That's the
way to go.
If you hear fighting, there's like I think there's a scene in like a hangar where it's like a really big fight between Marines and like alien grunts, and you just like wait for all the gunfire and hornet buzzing to stop and then go in. That's the key. But I also really like the Vortigoth enemies, the guys that shoot the scary electricity.
Like electricity stuff, yeah.
Yeah, those are really cool enemies. I really don't like the flying ones in the end, like the ones that I don't remember what they're called, but they're like these, they kind of look like your standard alien with like a big head but kind of a human body, and they like float in the air and they shoot stuff at you. They're officially the worst. They're my least favorite.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but it's really cool. I think everyone, if you're a fan of PC games and you have not played this game yet, you don't have to play the old 1998 version like I did. I kind of wanted to end it this way for today, is they just came out with Black Mesa, which is a fan-made remake of Half-Life that was endorsed by Valve. It's on Steam. I believe it's $30. That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's also extremely high quality. Like it is, they didn't just like make the levels like look prettier. Like they really went through and remade the whole game.
Yeah, they remade a lot. They fixed a lot of things, a lot of problems with it.
Yeah.
And it just looks really good. I have not played this version yet because, as we all know, it is June, and I'm sure the Steam Summer Sale is happening very soon, and I'm sure that game will go on sale. So that's my strategy, is waiting for that. But I recommend, if you want to play this game, you can play Half-Life 1998 version, which is dirt cheap. And the chances are, if you bought any sort of Valve collection on your Steam account, you have it. It's there.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. I was like, oh, I have all of them. I have Blue Shift. I have Opposing Force. The only one I don't have is Decay, because Decay was a PlayStation exclusive. But you can play it that way. There is Half-Life Source, but I've heard that's not that great. Yeah. Like, you might as well just play the old Half-Life.
Half-Life Source it's a remake of Half-Life in the newer Source engine that Half-Life 2 was made on. Really, the only things it does is make the water look better. Like it looks like modern-ish water. But they don't use the high definition models that you get when you buy when you buy Blue Shift, which is anybody who has Half-Life on Steam now, I think, has Blue Shift. So it's actually like kind of a lower quality version of the game, which is a bummer because the water looks so good in Half-Life Source.
Yeah, I would say just play Half-Life, and then when you get to a part where you need to look at water, just boot up Half-Life Shift or Half-Life Source and be like, that's what it should look like, and then switch back to the old Half-Life.
Yep.
That's probably
the
a
right
really
way to
good,
do it.
That's the right way to play the game. But yeah, Black Mesa, everyone should check it out. Other than that, I mean, we are going to go in next week, not next week, but in 2 weeks from now, or maybe next week, I don't know, into detail about Half-Life Opposing Force, Half-Life Blue Shift, Half-Life Decay, and then a bunch of mods that came out of Half-Life. And we'll talk a little bit more about Valve. Like, I don't know, it's like where you strike people.
Yeah, or you strike back.
Strike Back. Yeah, when you Strike Back is the name of it, I think it's called.
Yeah, Strike Back.
We'll talk about Strike Back next week. But, yeah, that's kind of where I was at right now. I hope I didn't miss anything. I really wanted to dive more into the development of the game this episode, because then talk about like every single feature and every single level, because
we've all played it.
Yeah, that's what I think is more interesting, is how they made this game and how it really was two guys that had like a dream of making a game, and through having lots and lots of money were able to pull it off. That's really the most. Hey, if you have a lot of money, you can make anything possible, I guess. Is that what the dream? Is that the moral of the story? Gosh, I hope
that's
not.
The truth. Yeah, that's what we take away from this story. And sometimes you can have infinite money and still make a bad game, but that's not what Half-Life is.
We all know that's true. We've all heard of the bigger name publishers doing that. But Tyler, what you been playing?
Well, this week, the biggest game that I've been sinking most of my time into is Mass Effect. Still working on the original Mass Effect. I haven't spent as much time on video games this week because I've been doing a lot of reading and just trying to educate myself on current issues that are going on. So I'm like trying to become a better person and learn more about myself and my privilege. So I haven't spent as much time playing video games, but I did spend a lot of time yesterday playing Mass Effect.
Mass Effect is a great game.
Yeah.
Also, reading and becoming a better person is a great thing.
Yeah. We played some Halo Reach also. We're making our way through that. We're about halfway through Halo Reach, you and I. And I guess we can't not say we started up Destiny again. We're back on the train. We want to do that new 3-man dungeon, and so we're powering up and trying to get our characters ready to do that because it looks really, really fun.
Yeah. Like, I am loving Destiny again because I got on that hype train. They do such a good job of getting me on the hype train.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to play super hard like I was doing before. Like, I'm not going to go for a title this season. I don't care. But I am going to play the dungeon with my friend Tyler and our other friend. And then I am going to, I don't know, probably just call it there, honestly, and wait for the big expansion in September. I think that's the way to do it.
Sounds like that's the right way to do it. And I think that's an okay way to play that game. Like, we took like a season. Did we take 2 seasons off? We stopped playing for like 6 months.
I took a season off. Like, I bought last season because I'm a ding dong, and then I didn't play it at all. And I even lost my like exotic weapon bounty, which kind of bummed me out. I told you about it. I'm still upset, but it's not a big deal. But so I bought it and I didn't play it at all. And then I was like, I'm not going to buy the next season. And then they announced this dungeon, and I'm like, well, I'm going to buy the next season because the $10 for a dungeon is totally worth it, if you ask me.
It looks really fun too.
It looks very cool in like 80s, and I'm excited about it.
The dungeon's for free players too. I don't think you have to buy the pass.
Yeah, you don't. I like having something to chase. I don't know what it is. I
like it. I'm digging the power grind since we're a little ways behind now. So there's a little bit of a power grind. So we're going back and playing the stuff that we've already played a million times already. So maybe I will get tired of it quickly, but I'm having an okay time right now. I just like shooting aliens, and I don't really care if I have to shoot them in the same way over and over. I just like shooting aliens.
Yeah, there's one thing I can say about Destiny and Destiny 2. They really like have the best like shooting mechanics in a game I've played in a while. Like, especially with playing like Halo Reach and seeing what that feels like.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you're like, oh, Destiny, you got it so good.
Yeah. Halo Reach feels good too. Also made by Bungie.
Very good. Yeah. Not to dog on Halo Reach because I'm having a good time playing that. We were having some issues with Halo Reach, so like lag issues.
Yeah, that's true. But that's a
me thing, probably more than anything else, everybody. The sound's messed up. That's for sure.
Yeah, the sound is not great, and they definitely know about that.
But it's still fun. What else have you been playing? Got anything else?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. What have you been playing?
Well, I have been playing Animal Crossing. I built an arcade in my basement. It's very exciting, everybody. And then also, in fact, actually, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to do it. I don't even care. You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
I am looking for arcade machines in Animal Crossing, New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch gaming system. Okay. And I have Mahjong, and I have the shooting one, like the Space Invaders version, but I am looking for more. And I am doing a call out to the Codex History podcast listeners that if you have schematics and we could catalog trade for arcade systems, you need to email me at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com and I will send you my dodo code. So I'm like obsessed. So I have like, I did it, the way it works in Animal Crossing is, I don't know if this is interesting to anybody, but you get like, if someone has an item you want that you can't craft and you can only buy, if they drop it and you pick it up and then you give it back to them, it appears in an online catalog for you that you can just purchase it and it's mailed to your house the next day. Oh. So I got like 4 pinball machines and an arcade machine that way. And I'm like trying to make the arcade of my dreams in the basement of my house. And I have this really cool like brick background and I have this like blue and black tile floor. It looks like an arcade. It looks really sweet. The only thing I don't have is like wall decorations. So if you have an arcade machine or wall decorations for an arcade, hit me up. And I will send you my dodo code or my friend code, and we can become friends, and we can sing and hum the Animal Crossing theme together because it's the most catchy song in the world, and I love it so much. That's my. I also have been playing. I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare because I love a Call of Duty campaign, and it just felt right, and I'm having a really good time, even though I'm already over halfway through it, and I'm like 2 hours in. But still, it's really, really fun. And other than that, that's kind of what I've been playing lately. I'm kind of trying to... I beat Half-Life last week for this thing, and I'm probably going to also be starting Opposing Force this week. It is a really short game, and I think I'll beat it in like 3 hours. So
nice.
That's the goal. But that's what I've been playing. But yeah, that Animal Crossing, I would love it if you have an arcade machine, or if you need an arcade machine too. We can catalog trade. Okay, I don't mind. But with that pretty much covers the episode for that part today. Do you want to do some emails?
Sure.
Sweet. How about you get started?
Okay.
While I drink some water. I'm dying. Oh my gosh.
Sounds good. We'll read the first email here from Old Man Ryan. He says, "My boys, another day, older Ryan here. I just want to start out by saying you guys are not cowards. Well, maybe Tyler a little for getting rid of the Vita. I still feel bad about that. Although Persona 4 Golden is on PC now, so there's one less reason to buy a PlayStation Vita now."
Ooh.
That was me. I added that, not Ryan. Ryan goes on to say, "I'm liking the talk that will be this week. I just grabbed my old box for Half-Life 2 yesterday while I was at my mom's, so I started again last night. Do you guys have a camera in my house?" The answer is no, we don't. But we do. Great minds do think alike, so we must have been on the same wavelength there.
I didn't tell you we launched the Codex History of Video Games satellite that can zoom in on people's houses. I didn't tell you that.
Oh, that's launched now? Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that was out yet.
We got the funding.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, I guess I'm just behind then.
Yeah,
on our news.
I launched that.
So we're watching.
I talked to Elon. He launched that for me. It's no big deal.
Great. All right, that was very nice of him. Oh, that was part of the launch, the shuttle launch.
Yeah.
That they did a couple weeks ago. They also launched our satellite. Oh, that was very nice of him. Okay.
Top secret.
Yeah. So that makes sense. All right. Well, there you go. Mystery solved, Ryan. Okay. Let's see. We got one here from Mo. He says, "Hey dudes, it's Mo. Thanks for the chat on PC gaming history. I also had a similar beginning to PC gaming, school computer labs. The gateway to PC gaming? ?
I hope so. I hope it's still that way now.
Me too.
I love a school computer lab.
Me too. My buddy and I used to race against each other at school to see who could speed run through the 5 levels of Chex Quest first. Oh my gosh, you just hit me right in my heart. I love Chex Quest.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, Chex Quest is one of the formative games of my youth. They actually...
You said they... you actually were on the same page. You were about to say the remake.
Yes, they just remade it. I haven't played it yet. It's like a fan remake, but it's also like officially licensed by Chex, I think. I think they worked some deal out, so it's like a fan thing. But anyway, it looks really cool. I haven't played it yet, but I think it's free on Steam, so there's really no reason to. Anyway, Mo goes on to say, "It's always entertaining to see debates on PC gaming versus console gaming. Of course, expensive PC rigs have the claim on top for performance, but the cost effectiveness of consoles lately is really impressive. This would be an interesting challenge. Could you build a gaming PC with the same specs/performance as the Xbox Series X at the same price? This would not include monitor/TV, but I think the PC setup would need to include a keyboard and mouse since consoles come with a controller, and also all new parts. Most are guessing that the Xbox Series X will cost $600, maybe even less. Can it be done? Thanks for bringing us the Codex goodness. Spider Butts." Mo. Spider Butts.
I like Spider Butts as a send-off. It's my favorite thing we've ever done with this podcast.
So do I think that you could build a PC with the same specs performance as the Xbox Series X for the same price? Saying, if say it's $600. I think the answer is no, and I'll tell you why. It's because Microsoft and Sony and any console manufacturer, at least for the first few years of the console's life, they sell them at a loss. So they build it for, say, $800 and sell it for $600, knowing that they're going to make it up on the backside when you buy a whole bunch of games. So I don't think you could build a PC for the same price that would have the same performance as an Xbox Series X. Now, in 3 or 4 years, that maybe changes a lot. But for now, I don't think that's really possible. I think the Xbox Series X will continue to be bang for buck in terms of performance versus a PC. If that's what you're really going for, is like performance per dollar. I think that the Xbox will probably do it for a couple of years.
Doesn't the Xbox One X also support like 4K? Too?
It does, yeah.
That would be a challenge 4K. To get with like the price, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To get a graphics card that can actually do 4K.
Yeah, that can run 4K at a decent frame rate. I mean, I think you would have to find a PC. You'd have to find a game that's on both Xbox and PC and say, okay, they need to run at roughly the same detail level. So you set this PC settings to be whatever is equivalent to the Xbox, and then run them at the same resolution as well, and then make sure that they hit the same frame rate. You might be able to do it for 4K now for like $600. You won't be playing like 4K at 60, but you probably could do it at 4K 30. And I know that Microsoft keeps saying like, oh yeah, the One X or the Series X will do 120 frames per second at 4K. And like, yeah, it's probably theoretically possible, but I don't think we'll see any games do 120 frames per second at 4K and look like a next gen game. And I think we will probably see games hit that 30 frames per second threshold more so than the 30 or than the 60, because I think people generally don't care as much about frame rate as enthusiasts think they do. So yeah, that's me. That's what I think about.
That's a good question, though.
Console gaming.
It's a really good question. I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, but there's like a trade-off that a developer has to make when choosing, like, do we go for 60 frames per second or do we go for 30? And if they go for 30, they can make the game look a lot better. And I think 9 times out of 10, they go for the 30 and make the game look better, because that's like, people will look at the back of the box and see that, and they won't see frame rate, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question, though, Mo. I appreciate it. I'm happy about it. Yeah, now it makes me want. Now I'm going to look at PC prices. Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, this was done without any research, so maybe I'm wrong.
What have you done, Mo? Just kidding. All right, next email we got is from Danny, who's a friend of mine. I like this. Danny says, this is Danny from Auburn. And he says, I love the podcast. I just realized I don't know if I'm supposed to say where he's from, but now you know, and Auburn's a big city, so you'll figure it out. I also didn't say the state. I didn't say the state.
True. No one knows where you live, Mike.
Oh, no. Even though I mentioned it earlier in this podcast. Love the podcast, full of good stuff. I listened to your Animal Crossing episode. Is the best episode, and I thought I would throw Satisfactory in as a good casual game. Have you played Satisfactory? I've heard of it.
I haven't, no.
So it's a factory/base building game that is very low stress, and I have had a lot of fun with it. It came out on Steam, but was previously on Epic. And I actually heard of this game, and I am 100% going to pick this up for the Steam sale, and I'm going to see if Danny wants to play Satisfactory. If you can play it 2-player. I have no idea if you can. He also gives me his Steam friend code, but you don't get that, listeners. Ooh. Rough. Cheers, Danny. Thank you so much for the email, Danny. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry I told people where you live. It's okay, though. I'm really bad at the email part. All right. Now, could I read the emails ahead of time and practice? I could, but do I? I was focusing on Half-Life. Leave me alone, everybody. Okay, here we go. It's Bethany Fox again from Australia. Hey, guys. Your mate Bethany Fox here. I almost tried to say it as a Australian accent, and I pulled back.
Don't do it.
I pulled back. Firstly, Australia does have semi-strict guidelines compared to a few years ago, but ever since they brought in the R18 rating, it's not so bad. And with the ability to buy digital versions of the games, it's not so noticeable. So there you go. Bethany Fox did some research for us. Secondly, I never really got into PC gaming until I built my first gaming rig about 5 years or so ago, and I'm looking for my next upgrade. I recently picked up Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I'm so addicted to it, and it's great. Bethany Fox, add me on there, and we could trade arcades. Okay.
Do you have any arcade machines?
Give me I need all your arcade machines. I'm glad that I've inspired you to get more games for your Switch like Mike. Love the show, guys. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you so much, Bethany Fox. Also, give me all your arcade machines. Okay. That was good. Yeah, I'm like becoming obsessed with it. That's the problem with like Animal Crossing is I didn't really care as I was playing like other games and stuff. And I've kind of beaten those games. So now I'm picking it up again. And I'm just like every day I log in, I go to the shop hoping they sell an arcade machine. Because that's how it started. They had the Mahjong machine for 64,000 bells. I'm going to buy it. Obviously, I run the stock market practically. I'm flush with bells. Okay, I'm like the Gabe Newell of Animal Crossing. I'm just flush with bells. All right, just to bring it all back. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone that sent us an email. We really appreciate it. You can email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can also rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. We got some new ratings on there. That was really cool. Whoever did that, thank you so much. That's the episode. I don't know what we're doing next week. It's going to be a surprise.
Very excited. It's going to be fun.
That's great. Well, do you want to say bye to everyone, Tyler? I think you should give them like a thoughtful farewell, and I'll just be quiet. Ready?
Yeah. So in general, just be good to each other and don't be mean. Goodbye, everyone.